Thank you for watching this video. Please check out the description below to see the second part of this mini-series on the power of language. Now, you can also check out DocAmitay.com to learn more about what I do as a registered clinical psychologist, or type in DocAmitay to YouTube and see more of my channel to know that I'm not a one-trick pony. I'm not just talking about critical thinking and free speech, although ironically, today I will be. Now, the reason I'm doing this is one of my viewers had commented on the previous video I did where I discussed the distortion of language, and he raised some amazing points, and I thought, you know what, that's worth discussing further. So that's what I'm going to be dealing with language today, and please don't discount this. I'll be talking about this, why this is so important in a few seconds, or in the other video more so, okay? But for now, I want to make a little bit of a caveat here. I'm going to be talking about two types of personality traits, styles, disorders, configurations, whatever you want to call them. And I want to be very clear here that as a clinical psychologist, I work with so many patients with one of these styles, which is borderline personality. And knowing the history and the ongoing traumas that most of my patients with borderline traits or a full-blown disorder have, I have nothing but the utmost sympathy, compassion, empathy for these individuals. So nothing I'm about to say here today is intended to belittle, demean, insult, denigrate them in any way. If anyone misconstrues it, then you are reading into things and it says a lot more about you. Okay? The second type I'll be talking about are narcissists, especially malignant narcissists, people with antisocial personality disorder, psychopaths, and sociopaths. And they're all kind of part of a spectrum. At least malignant narcissists, they're kind of like psychopath light. So I'm going to be talking about these two and combining them with, or kind of correlating them with people who are either social justice warriors or who believe in controlling your thoughts and your speech, or basically anybody on any end of a spectrum. When you've got the extreme ends of a spectrum, they are very similar in certain ways. Now, I'm not calling them psychopaths. I'm saying the way they communicate can be very similar to what you do see if you're dealing with a psychopath or someone like that with that style, or with borderline personality. So I'll be talking about those. And again, this is not some kind of backhanded or sideways, kind of way of sliding in some insult against social justice warriors. I call them out for their garbage directly. I'm not trying to make any sly references. And again, it's very important. In no way am I trying to, insult the kinds of people who might have these traits, because I have nothing but the most compassion for them. So, having said that caveat, so today I still get emails from people who are saying, why do you care so much about this? I'm talking about my colleagues. They are still asking me, why do I care? Is this such a big problem? Well, most of them aren't in academia, so they don't realize that it is. But still, they have to realize this has nothing to do with pronouns. I hate to keep going back to that, but this whole thing started with pronouns. But that's not where it really began. That's just the context in which it happened. And as I've been saying in my comments to people who've been writing to me, I've been doing this for over 15 years in my classes. I've taught over 160 classes, 20 different courses at 5 different universities. And I'm pretty consistent in all of them, which is basically promoting critical thinking, recognizing how important language is. Research has shown that there's no way that a baby, a human baby, could pick up the complexity of language just by experience, just by observing other people, by trying to manipulate the phonemes and all these other the syntax and everything. There's no way that could happen. We seem pre-programmed with this ability to pick up on language far beyond what we should be able to do based on our direct exposure to it. So language plays a huge part in human development. There's a reason that such important parts of our brain are devoted to being able to master first, second, third, however many languages we need. So it is very important. So for anybody to pretend it isn't, you're doing yourself a disservice. So when it comes to language, I'll be talking more about that in my other video. But for now, what I wanted to focus on is that when I'm assessing, let's say, a psychopath or someone close to them, I've watched other people try to assess them, and it's pretty humorous because it's like trying to grab onto an eel, okay? They are so manipulative, so deceptive, and they will usually chew up and spit out the person who's trying to interview them. They walk away just so frustrated, exhausted, and they don't even know what the hell happened. And that's a professional, let alone a partner, a friend, a coworker who's trying to deal with someone like that. It can be impossible. But I've assessed very many of them, and I usually do pretty well. So this video is kind of going to talk about how to deal with people, not necessarily psychopaths, but people who act in a similar way. And those would be people who are on the extreme end of any spectrum. Okay, so social justice warriors, extreme leftists or extreme rightists, anybody who just doesn't plan to listen to anything you say. They just are going to keep, coming at you with a barrage of whatever they say. Some of them will pretend to listen and then just come, coming back at you. Others, you can tell they're not even listening at all. They just want to, spit their rhetoric out. And again, it's not just left, it's right as well. Anybody who's extreme will act in this way. And it is oftentimes like someone who's either a sociopath / psychopath or delusional, which means a break from reality. They have false beliefs, okay? Or someone sometimes with borderline personality. And I'll talk about why I'm saying these in a second. So the first thing to do is, and this started way, way, way back when, back in the early days of the internet when they had bulletin boards, the BBSs, okay? I know that we still have chat rooms today, but back then I was pissing off a lot of people. Not because I was a troll. I wasn't. I use my own name. I always use my own name. But because I was challenging people on what they said. I wouldn't let them go jabber, 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 and just be overwhelmed by it. I would pick out point by point. And I know that can be annoying when someone gives 1,000 lines and you pick out 3 and you dissect those. That's not what I did. I would take whole sections, not quote mine, and I would say, this is what you're claiming, and I explain why I believe it's wrong or inaccurate, or more importantly, if they claim that I said something, that's when I would say, and for those of you who saw my other videos, I've been still doing this to this day, I would say, show me where I said it. When I talk to students, and a lot of students will challenge things that I say in class, which I really appreciate, keeps me on my toes. I learn new things from students. But if they ever misrepresent what I say, I'm very clear saying, I didn't say that. Okay? And I have witnesses. 30, 50, 60, 2,000 students saw the exact same thing that I saw, and they can, attest to the fact that the student was distorting, what I had said. So, number one rule, if you're dealing with people, I'm just going to call them social justice warriors, but again, it applies to anybody on any extreme end of a spectrum. If you're dealing with them, you make sure there's a witness. If there isn't, it's a waste of time. You're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to have a headache, and neither of you is going to impress the other, and neither of you is going to get the other person to change. You're not trying to do that. When you have witnesses, when you have other people, you're hoping to affect them, to get more moderate people to maybe go, oh, I see what they're saying. But more importantly, and this is what I always do, whether it's Twitter or anywhere else. Now, look, I don't want to be trolled. I don't want to waste time with trolls or, a-holes. So I walk into a discussion on Twitter or anywhere else or an email with the assumption the person has non-malicious intentions. I'm hoping that they're being upfront and they really do want to have a dialogue. If I find out pretty soon that they're not, I'll either just respectfully disengage, or if I realize that I've got an audience here and there's a teaching moment here, I'll keep dealing with them. Because what I do is I will just continue to handle myself with decorum. And that's very important. Never lose your cool. Don't lose your shit when someone's acting like an imbecile. Okay? Let them do their own stupidity. Everyone else will see it. And the only people who won't see it are those who are on the extreme sides already with them. We're not trying to reach them. It's everybody else. And we're not trying to, you don't preach to your choir. Too easy. You want to reach the people in the middle. Or even slightly on the other quote-unquote side, bring them over to reason. And again, it's not necessarily saying that my side is right. It's just saying, listen to my side. When I have discussions with other people, of course it's nice to compel them to believe in what I'm saying and to win them over. But if at the very least I'm getting them to think about it, engaging in real critical thinking, not just taking one side, not getting overwhelmed by emotion, but truly hearing what I have to say, analyzing it, thinking about it, and then realizing facts trump opinions. If I can get them to at least think that way, I know I've had some impact on somebody who maybe somewhere down the road will do the same for somebody else, or at least will be less of an a-hole in society. I've done my part. So that's what you're trying to do, and that's why you want to have more than one person there. The other thing is, and this is very important, as I alluded to, don't let emotions get to you. Step back, especially if it's like Twitter or something like that. Don't get heated. Step back, breathe, have a drink, do something. Well, not too much because you'll make funny tweets. But try to remove yourself from that emotional component. Now, people say, oh, I can do that, and they pretend that they're really rational and so on, but underneath, they still really are being triggered. And I use the word trigger all the time. I don't mean trigger warning. I mean they're having some emotional response that's maybe disproportionate to what's really going on. They're getting really upset, frustrated, angry. They want to get revenge. So you're not going to be giving your best performance then. So you want to step back and just stick with the facts. And again, just tell yourself, if this person's acting like a jerk, if I am conducting myself with the utmost decorum, respect, just straight on, being a good person, they are going to look like the idiot. And other people will recognize that. And that's how you bring people over to your side. It's one of the best strategies. Okay, so being composed, so important. Now, the funny thing is, psychopaths are really good at doing that. All right, they just shut down, and the difference is they are trying to toy with you. They're trying to manipulate. This is a game to them. Not all, but a lot of psychopaths are really smart. Narcissists, they want to see how far they can push the envelope. They want to provoke you. They want to get you all riled up. And someone with borderline personality disorder, they're doing the same thing, but it's not usually intentional. People with borderline personality disorder get labeled as manipulative, and what they do is manipulative, but for the most part. Not all, but for the most part, or not, yeah, mostly, I find that it's not that they're doing this on purpose. It's because of their past, because of the horrible interpersonal relations they've had since day one, that they don't know any better. They are in a state of fight or flight. They're panicking. They're scared. They feel like their life's on the line because probably historically their life may have been on the line, or some horrible consequence could have happened if they said the wrong thing. So they're in desperation mode, and they will say and do things that they don't necessarily mean. Now, I'm not trying to say if someone's treating you badly that you forgive them, say, oh, they had a terrible childhood, keep abusing me. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that it's very different from a narcissist or a psychopath who's, verbal assault on you is premeditated. They're getting joy out of it. Someone with borderline personality disorder, many times they're just trying to survive the interaction. So, but the point is, they also are trying to get a reaction from you. Now, with a narcissist, they get the reaction from you, and they love it inside. Okay, the narcissist, like, I'll just call them narcissist, but it can be psychopath or anything else. And when I say narcissist, I'm talking about the malignant type, the bad type. Okay, there are many different types of narcissists. Not all of them are horrible. Most of them are just annoying, but there's some are really bad, and they're like the psychopath light, like I said. So it's a game to them, and they want to watch your reaction. They love it. A lot of the trolls basically are them. But someone with borderline personality, they do want to get a reaction as well, but not because they're trying to, poke. They're poking you. They're definitely pushing buttons, but not because they want to, manipulate you. It's not intentional in many cases, right? It's just that the only way that they know how, whether it's to kind of turn the tables, whether it's to try to evoke sympathy in some way, some twisted way, whether they want to enrage you so much. And again, it's not conscious, but they want to enrage you so much that you start attacking them so they can play the victim. Whatever it is, it's a different underlying mechanism, but the outcome can be the same, where they're making you get emotional. Once you get emotional, you've lost. So always check your emotions, which is much easier, of course, when you're doing Twitter or some other type of electronic communication. Don't lose your shit there. It's not cool. Now, the other thing is that people with borderline personality disorder or any type of extremism, that I'm talking about, they're ruled by fear. Why do you think they are so willing to join some fanatical groups who don't make any sense? If you really sit down and listen to them, you realize, wow, they're hateful. But they are afraid. They believe in identity politics because they can't make it on their own. They need to be affiliated with some kind of group. Now, in the next video, I will be talking about other people who identify with these kinds of groups. So it's not just lefties and social justice warriors, but people who feel that they put too much emphasis on the identity of a group. We are social animals. We all identify with some group. But if that's the main way that you see yourself, that you perceive yourself as part of this group, then you're probably weak-minded or weak-willed, or you have a weak psychological profile, because that's where you get your strength. There is strength in numbers, sure, but you got to feel strong on your own, and a lot of people don't feel that way. So they're doing this out of fear. Okay, a lot of their actions, a lot of their the attacks, the weaseling that they do, the throwing labels at you, it's all to try to disempower you, because they are terrified of you, your ideas, anything that they don't like. And I'll be talking more about this in this other video, but I'll say a bit right now. That's part of the problem. This is why language is so important. If you listen to the people who are supposedly, ostensibly, trying to promote the rights of other people, trying to protect other people, their well-being, their dignity, whatever, if you really listen to them, you see the attitude they have, the arrogance. There's this real, maternalistic or paternalistic feel to it. And B, they speak as if I'm the one who's got to protect you. You can't do it on your own. You need me. And that language is so disempowering. I've said this in other videos as well, that people allow themselves to get caught up in this self-righteousness. And being righteous is one thing. You put the self in front of it, and now all of a sudden you're blind to what you're actually doing. You're blind to your hypocrisy and your arrogance. And you have no idea that you truly are having the opposite effect. You don't empower people by making them feel that they're oppressed. You don't empower people by making them feel you don't have any responsibility for your actions. No, it's the big bad patriarchy or the man, the racist, whatever else it is. Okay? And that's what they need to do. Because it's not just about the people they're supposedly protecting, but they're also feeding into this narrative because they have to believe it themselves. Whether it's to make an excuse for themselves to say, that's why I'm not doing so well in life, because I'm fighting this struggle, because there is a real struggle. It's real, and and I can't help it. It's again the patriarch or whatever else this imaginary thing they're fighting against, or by setting up this fictional creature and fighting against it, they are giving their meaningless lives some inflated sense or false sense of meaning and purpose. And they believe they're doing something grand and they'll be remembered for it or whatever else, says the person making all these videos on critical thinking and free speech. The difference is I do other things in my life besides just this, and I don't identify myself only with this. So check out DocAmitay on the YouTube. You'll see that there's more stuff that I do. So the point is, this is why a lot of people are doing this. And it takes them away from either the mundane reality of their existence or the anxiety of their existence. Instead of realizing, oh, my job sucks and I'm going to die miserable, or my partner is terrible but I don't have the courage to deal with it, or something like that. Focusing on these other things, these mythical or these fantasy creatures or constructs or systems that are in place that they're fighting against. Again, it's either distraction or it gives them an inflated sense of self. So that's what they're really doing. They have a lot at stake here. And they're not going to just rationally, magically say, oh yeah, I get what you're saying. We're talking about the people on the far ends, okay? Because that would be too terrifying for them to realize either that their lives are not quite the way they felt or believed or they want to believe, or that the people that they've invested so much of their energy into, okay, that they're basically blindly following these people off of a cliff to believe that, maybe they don't have my best interests at heart. Maybe they don't know what they're talking about. Maybe they've lied to me. For them to accept that, the cognitive dissonance that happens with that, and that's basically when two thoughts or feelings don't match in your mind. So you want to believe that you're smart and good, but then you have some this potential belief saying, I did something that wasn't smart or wasn't good. And when you have the two at the same time, it's such a discomfort that people, they can't deny what they've actually done. They can deny it to other people, they can lie, but to themselves they can't. So what do? They distort their reality and they make it look like, no, I didn't do anything wrong or bad. No, this stuff was good. It was smart. Therefore, I'm still a good and smart person. No cognitive dissonance. My thoughts and feelings are consonant with each other. And it's a very powerful phenomenon. It's based on fear. It's also kind of just a fancier way of looking at Freud's rationalization, which is basically making up excuses for the things that you do or don't do. All of this is to keep anxiety at bay, unconsciously keeping stuff that scares you away from your conscious awareness. Makes life easier in the short run. In the long run, of course, it makes it harder because you're never actually dealing with the stuff that you've got to take care of. And on top of that, you're also devoting so much psychic energy, so much internal energy and resources into trying to keep reality as distorted as it is for you, so that you don't have to actually make any change. Bit of a digression, but it's relevant because that's what the people that you're dealing with are struggling with. They have distorted things so much, mostly unconsciously, probably a bit of conscious distortion. And so that's what you're dealing with. So how do you deal with them? If you just say, I didn't say that. If you just say, you're wrong. Too easy. They're just going to come attacking you, whatever else. Do what I do, and I've coined this many, many years ago. I call it verbal judo. Okay? So, and I use it with my patients a lot. Instead of giving declarative statements or declarative statements, instead of saying, this is what I said, this is what you said, ask questions. It's an art form. Anything you want to say, think of how can I say it in a question, because that forces the other person to answer it. And when I deal with psychopaths, getting back to what I was saying earlier, when I'm dealing with a psychopath who's lying through their teeth, making up stories or whatever else, it's like a forensic investigation, which is basically I will listen to everything they say. I don't interrupt them. Sometimes I have to, but I'll let them go on and on and on and on. They exhaust themselves, and I say thank you because I'm listening. I'm engaged. I'm siding up to them, so they don't have their defenses up. I mean, they always do have them up, but they let them down a little bit when I sound like, or when I look like I'm really interested in what they're saying. You can do that with SJWs or whatever else. Listen. Now, Carlson Tucker, I can't stand the guy. I'm sorry. Some of you like him. I know some of you will. And I got to say, he's got so many ridiculous leftists or Antifa or other people who actually make him look good. They make him look smart. So that's, that just shows how bad they are when they make him look good. But the fact is, and again, if you're into him, sorry, I don't want to alienate you, but I'm not impressed at all by him. When he's watching people and he's looking like he's interested, okay, he's going like, there's a way that he does it that doesn't look like he's interested. It looks creepy. It's basically saying to you, I'm not really listening. I'm just waiting, and then I'm going to get you. The art form is to look like you really are engaged, because you are engaged. You want to hear everything that they say. You want to treat everything they say as important, because, well, when I do an assessment, I'm writing everything down. But you want to be really right present, because then you've got all the information you need in order to use it against the person. So you take what they say, whatever it happens to be, and ask questions about it. Instead of saying you're wrong because of this, turn it into a question that forces them. And that's the beauty of it. You force them to have to think about what you're saying, to have to think of an answer, and they're going to come up with some bullshit answer, most likely, that's kind of tries to sidestep. Listen to it and say, I understand that. And what about this? You never give in. And that's what most people can't do with psychopaths. They 2, 3, 4 times they keep trying, and the psychopath just keeps deflecting, evading, throwing things at you, getting you wondering where I'm going. But if you write everything down, and if you're not writing it down, if you listen to it at least, okay, you just stay on point. You think, here's a question that I want to ask. And the question, again, is more of a, here's the point I want to make. And you make sure you have a couple of them, whether it's what you already have, whether it's something you're thinking about while you're doing this, or whether it's based on something they're saying in the moment. And you said, wow, what they said makes absolutely no sense. I'm going to hold them to account. So again, it's all about asking questions. Practice it in your daily life with simple stuff, okay? Think of a sentence you want to say to somebody, like saying, it's raining outside. That's silly, okay? Try to think of something a bit more difficult. Work your way up, okay? If someone says something to you, basically, where you want to counter it, or you want to basically, challenge it in some way, once again, don't say it. Ask it. Get them to come to whatever you want them to come to. And they won't get there the first 1, 2, 3 tries at it. So you got to be persistent. You got to think, okay, they said this, good. How do I get them to keep going in the direction I want them to go? It takes a lot of skill, but it can be done. It's also easier when you're dealing with like Twitter or something like that, where it's all written. And I'm telling you right now, when I deal with psychopaths and others, having emails and text messages is very powerful, because it's all there. It's in black and white. And they're not used to that. Okay, the psychopaths, the SJWs, all of them, they're just used to throwing up bullshit, and they're used to having people either on their side and going, yeah, okay, without attacking it, or they're used to having people get so overwhelmed by everything that they're throwing at them that they're not held to account. So hold them to account, ask the questions, keep the demeanor nice and even, nice and respectful, and never say, I didn't say that. Just say, where did I say that? Show me where. And when they try to go blah, 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 bring them back. Okay, I understand that. But where did I say that? You said I said this. So, okay, and try that over and over. And if, you realize I'm getting nowhere, it's not working, whatever else, that's when you respectfully disengage. Okay, just say, you know what? Obviously, we're not getting anywhere. You can be as jerkish as you want with them, or keep that decorum, especially when you have other people. Remember, it's all about trying to show other people that the way you're dealing with it, which is, I hope, reflective of critical thinking, is the better way. And if you're dealing with something like free speech or distortions of language, like I'll be talking about in my other video, it's so critical, because ironically, or coincidentally, in fact, I'm talking about precision language, coincidentally, we're talking about the power of language. And with free speech, there's nothing more important when it comes to language than the ability to be able to express your ideas freely, and not to have people either shut you down or distort what you're saying. And that's what they do. So you want to hold them to account, and you make sure that your words don't get distorted. That's how you win in the long run. Thank you for listening. Like I said, please check out the other video in the description to see more about the power of language.